the Milk Cup was settled on penalties, and for those who remember, but yeah, Kepa, that was the story, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
That was the story, and it's a great shame because Chelsea equipped themselves well, having been thumped 6-0. I mean, seldom do you get that when there's a kind of an outrageous result against two sides, and a kind of result that shouldn't be from one side's point of view. It tends not to be a repeat because even Sarri, people say we can't change and so on. You can't go into it. They say you just can't.
Also, the atmosphere in a cup final is different as well. I think
the
City approached it with a bit more caution as well. And actually, the sad thing, as you say, that will be forgotten is Chelsea showed so much character in the latter stages of the game, and also in the entirety of extra time. I would argue they looked like the more likely team to win it. They looked like, especially when they brought the subs on, they looked in control and sort of the most kind of together team. But then throwing that sort of mental curveball into a situation like that right at the death, it just changes the mentality of the game completely.
Yeah.
And Chelsea tried to PR it and say, oh, it was just a misunderstanding, and Kepa was actually explaining that he didn't need to come off and he was fine. But that's clearly nonsense, clearly absolute nonsense.
They PR'd it quite well, thanks to Sarri, actually.
Well, he dealt with it any way he could. Before we get on to the Kepa thing, very quickly, just to pick up on something you guys said there, he didn't change the formation.
No.
But he did change slightly how they approached the game. I mean, if you think of the way Sarri likes to play, being like an Italian style tiki-taka, they didn't play like that.
No,
They were happy to soak it up and be compact and all that kind of thing. And the
they
fact
didn't go pressing as well.
No, exactly. And the fact that he picked I know he's picked Emerson a lot in the League Cup this season, but the fact that he picked Emerson for the final ahead of Alonso, who hasn't been the best defensively recently, tells its own story. But so it feels a bit like. Well, actually, it's an extension really of what Jim said. We could be talking about all these things. We could be talking about how Hazard was brilliant and
what
really
a job he did in that role.
Yeah, and one or two other bits and pieces. But we're not. We're going to talk about Kepa because it was an extraordinary situation, really.
It was, yeah. I mean, clearly, I felt that him being injured, I mean, to me, that was just by the by, because as soon as he got Caballero out and up ready, stripped off, you thought, oh, of course.
Yeah, he's a penalty shootout specialist.
And he used to play for them.
Yeah.
So that would get in Man City's heads. What a brilliant move. And I know there was that thing with the sort of the injury and whatnot, which seemed that I'm thinking that's coincidence that happened.
All he needed was some tonic water. He had some cramp. Get a bit of quinine in you, you'll be fine. Tonic water put it in one of the Carabao Cup bottles if you want.
Maybe Carabao. It's like a power up again, isn't it?
Maybe that's what he had.
Yeah.
Maybe they were all on it.
Yeah.
But with the Kepa situation, he then says, no, I'm absolutely fine. Now, from Kepa's point of view, what I wonder is, was that communicated? Because it did seem like a plan to bring on Caballero, and it makes sense if you've got that substitution.
Well, it's a good point, because if they had planned it before, then what Kepa's done is even worse.
Yeah,
because he's gone back on it. But the key. But if he hasn't, regardless of that, if it hasn't been planned in advance, and I suppose, I guess a chance it wasn't. The important point isn't whether he was injured or not, Marcus. I agree with you. The point is, the manager is the manager.
Yeah.
And if you are going to royally mug off your manager for whatever reason in front of the watching 90,000 or whatever it was, and 81,000 and the assembled millions watching at home, I mean, there's no real way back from that. I mean, I can understand why Sarri PR'd it as he did in public, but for me, I mean, regardless of the injury and regardless of Kepa's side of the story, there's a hierarchy at a football club, and the hierarchy is the manager makes the decisions. And given the fact that Sarri's been under such pressure publicly recently anyway, in many ways it's symbolic of the issue at Chelsea, the modern Chelsea, right? That would be straightforward, cut and dry back in the day. The manager would either put him in the reserve squad, make him train with, as they call it, the bomb squad for the next 3 months, and say, thanks very much, we don't need you. But the club have got a history of not backing managers. And also, he cost 71 million quid. So it's a difficult thing to do. If it all things being equal, I think what should happen here is Kepa should. I know he's sort of tried to make amends a little bit on his social media feed, but what he should do is make an official apology.
Yeah.
And say that he backs the manager again and look after him, and he should take a fine, and he should take on the chin whatever Sarri decides to do, because Sarri is the manager. That's the only way Maurizio Sarri's authority is going to be restored. Sadly, I feel like none of that stuff may not happen.
Absolutely. I feel like as well, but regardless of, as you say, of the injury, of whatever the power dynamic there, your number is up on the board. Your number is up on the board. Get off the pitch.
Yeah.
Also, the referee, I know the referee went over to Sarri to ask him what he wanted to do, but surely the referee has to go over and go, these are
Keep it
the
subbed off.
basic rules
Well,
of the game. Get off.
It's a booking if you delay it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and the reason we know this stuff isn't as they tried to PR afterwards is purely because of Sarri's reaction at the time, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise he would have just gone, "All right, okay, fine then."
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. If I was Kepa, I'd have come out straight afterwards and said, I forgot about the extra sub and extra time. I was trying to tell him I couldn't come off. We've done 3 already."
Right.
Yeah.
I was quite impressed by United's defensive quality, really. I mean, Salah, Firmino particularly had quiet games, and you would be tempted to say, they can't be brilliant every week, but I thought that the defensive line of United looked pretty solid. Shaw was absolutely fantastic.
He was.
Pogba putting a real shift going back, and that's how you know.
Not good enough for Graham Souness, though.
No, well, quite. That's how you know that Solskjaer is more than meets the eye with him, because Pogba really wants to play for him, and you could say, okay, well, he really wants to play for. He should want to play anyway, but he didn't do it under Mourinho. The irony being that Mourinho's a much more defensive coach than Solskjaer, yet Pogba didn't put any sort of shift in at all going back, to the point where Mourinho wasn't happy with him. Now, I know there could be other political reasons for that, and indeed there were, from what I've heard. But at the same time, he's showing now that he's capable of putting in a shift going back towards his own goal, and that he understands that you're not going to win every game 2 or 3-0. When you play against a good team, even at home, you need to do your doggies,
Yeah, I wonder with Solskjaer. I looked at him in his demeanour on the touchline and all the stuff you're saying there, Luke, about managing to get Pogba to put in a bit of a shift that we hadn't seen under Mourinho and whatnot. And I thought to myself, is Solskjaer, and he's not been in the job that long, and I understand that he's at Manchester United, and I think Ruud Gullit was mentioning this, that after Ferguson was always going to be a huge task. David Moyes didn't really acknowledge, or maybe not acknowledge, but didn't size up the job properly. It was just too big a job for him, as it is for the vast majority of managers.
Yeah.
Van Gaal, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. He's got his way, and he's going to come in and do that way. The same with Mourinho to a lesser extent. Solskjaer is more of the ethos of the club and so on. And but that aside, I just wonder with Solskjaer, as I say, looking at his demeanour and so on, I thought, is this guy actually a great manager for this newer generation of younger players?
More of a link,
who people say are a little bit more soft. Again, make what you will of that, but managers like Mourinho and so on get annoyed that players are not tough. He wants to manage the likes of Terry and Lampard, who, weird to think now, they're considered quite old school.
Yeah.
And he can batter them and really hammer them and get something, a reaction from them. Whereas now, players, it seems more about the individual and so on. And I wonder if Solskjaer, with his more carrot than stick approach, perhaps, he has the stick clearly to use. And I think
it's a good point. I think that's probably accurate, but I think we need to wait and see.
Of course,
when they go for a difficult patch, how he reacts to that, because we don't know enough about it. I mean, look, there are people on Twitter who'll tell you they know all about Mulder. I'm not one of those people, so I don't know what he's managed to do in difficult times, or even if he's had difficult times when he's been managing in Norway. But that point about the old school thing and how Mourinho wants to dig players out, and we've heard situations of certain players been reduced to tears by Mourinho, and I'm sure other managers as well.
Yeah.
The reason it's easy to use that as a stick to beat modern footballers. Oh, they're soft, they're this, that. Really?
Yeah, rightly or wrongly, by the way.
No, of course. But that's not. Saying that is not you, but people saying that is nonsense anyway. Because really, employment across the country has changed in a huge way since those times. I mean, you can't, as a manager of a team in an office, go in and start shouting at people. It's just not acceptable anymore. That kind of thing just doesn't go on anymore.
Yeah.
So there's no reason it should go on at an employment at a football club as well. So
I mean, Pete Donaldson does shout us, but he's not our manager.
No, and he doesn't. We don't really listen. So,
and also it feels like he's shouting at people that none of us can see.
Back to the Premier League, where Leicester City lost 4-1 at home to Crystal Palace. Claude Puel has been sacked.
Yeah.
He's gone. There's talk of Brendan Rodgers.
Can I do a quick joke?
Please.
They were saying Puel.
Well, it was a duel that he was never going to win, was it?
Yeah.
But yes, Claude Puel, he's sort of finally gone.
You got what you wanted, Leicester fans.
Do you know, I wonder that had they have lost that game 2-1, would he have been sacked? Do you know what I mean?
Did you watch the game, though?
Yes, I saw it.
It was fascinating.
It was.
I mean, that was a 1-0 to Leicester on the balance of play. It's absolutely fascinating.
Well, that's it. Like I just wonder that when the board have thought to themselves, right, not going that well with this manager. Are we going to do it? Are we not? Are we? At 2-1, if they think, if we lose 2-1, all right, well, maybe we'll give them next week. Do you know what I mean? I wonder how impulsive it is when you actually get an embarrassing result. I mean, they could have someone lined up.
There definitely is a feeling of it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And
Exactly.
Speaking of having people lined up, there's talk of Brendan Rodgers, but apparently Brendan Rodgers has already said he won't consider moving till the end of the season.
Yeah, I think that's
so.
probably
They'll have to either interim someone,
Appleton, maybe.
Then, possibly. Is he still there?
I mean, he was mentioned in the running.
Oh, he must still be there. And there's also been talk of Benitez as well.
Newcastle fans would be gutted.
Yeah, but presumably Benitez just wants to get out of there. So that's probably why. If they want to make an appointment straight away, they can. But just to going back to the decision, obviously we've been critical of Leicester fans on the show more recently. And now that Puel's moved on, we could perhaps look back at it in the rearview mirror with a bit more in the round, I suppose. I mean, they've been on a terrible run. I take the point that a few people, Leicester fans, got in touch with me about the League Cup, where if they played a stronger team against a weakened Man City team, they could have beaten them. They came very close to beating them anyway, and they would have got burst in the semi-final, and they could have been in the cup final yesterday. For a team like Leicester, that's massive.
It's huge.
I could understand why that's frustrating. That's something that comes up time and time again among fans of clubs of this size. We want a cup run. We should be doing better in the cups. We should prioritise the cups more because we know realistically we're not going to be relegated.
It's the best they can hope for,
etc. And the final point is just quickly that he had that issue with Kasper Schmeichel last week, but there's also a feeling that he's not the guy to turn around a bad run. He's just not inspirational enough. Now I don't know if that's true. I can understand why people don't warm to him because a lot of football is about the cult of personality these days. A lot of the big name managers are personal brands in their own right, and obviously he isn't that. He's just not that kind of guy. So, but the thing is, I do feel a bit sorry for him. But on the other hand, I haven't had to sit through watching Leicester. So, I mean, maybe I'm
I mean,
wrong.
it was an incredibly strange performance from them. James Maddison in particular, his end product seemed to be way off.
Well, he's drifted. He's drifted.
Yeah,
he started the season so well,
Yeah.
and he's drifted. And really, a game at home to Crystal Palace, who are very much in that mould of team that you would see a Crystal Palace game at home and say that's a winnable game for us. It just has to be.
But to be hammered as well.
Yeah.
I think Puel's comments after the game, I know that he's quite a softly spoken man, and I've talked about my love for his voice. But that aside, his comments are a bit. I can understand why the fans are a bit upset. It's too relaxed, and I mean, I understand not all people are blood, guts, and thunder. I get that, but it reminded me a little bit of the former Southampton manager. Was it Manuel?
Puel.
Yeah.
Pellegrino,
who was a bit sort of, but I'm still the manager. I'm still here. It was too relaxed. The whole thing, and I just thought, I understand that the great manager might not be able to give great interviews and all the rest of it, but it's a bit like being a prime minister. Again, we'll just you need to be better at your own PR and all that kind of stuff.
And the kind of thing that's interesting. I mean, of course, on the cup point, Leicester were knocked out of the FA Cup by Newport as well, which is
yeah.
But on that, if you watch the Sunderland documentary, I've got no particular reason to stick the boot in the Simon Grayson. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, and all the rest of it. I was absolutely stunned how uninspirational he was behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And then when Chris Coleman comes in, and you make what you will of Chris Coleman, he's had some success in his career, he's had some difficulties as well. He was exactly as you described there. He was properly a people person. He was getting to know everyone in the staff. He was a good, firm handshake. You could see people, football players, look at him going, right, I can work for him. No, and that didn't work out for him either. But to me, there were lots of different reasons why Sunderland are in the situation they were in. But I was absolutely stunned that Simon Grayson was the same behind the scenes as he was to camera, because we know through bitter experience a lot of the time, it's not easy to be great on camera. It can be very, very difficult. I wonder if Claude Puel was just a fairly uninspirational figure, and at key moments, the FA Cup, the League Cup, this run they're running, the Premier League, the issue with Kasper Schmeichel just meant that he was toast.
I also feel like you got to look at a game like that. I think it's actually pretty tactically naive to overload on the front foot as they did, and just allow a team with such sort of counter-attacking talent with Zaha, Townsend and Batshuayi in there, to just do what they did. You play right into their hands.
Batshuayi was loving that goal. That's all you need. When they say all you need is one to go in off your backside, you knew nothing about that.
I thought he did quite well to react, you could argue. But what a win for Roy Hodgson. Became the oldest manager to manage in the Premier League at 71 years and 198 days old.
Took it from Bobby Robson.
He did, yes. Palace, they're up to 13th now on 30 points. We expected Palace to start pulling away. It looks as though they're about to do that. The same with Burnley as well. What a win. Their great run continues. Unbelievable stuff. Pochettino in Mike Dean's. You don't do that to a man like Mike Dean.
I'm absolutely desperate to know what Mike Dean said.
Well, I think again, lip reading is hard enough as it is, especially
Spurs' assistant manager, whose name escapes me at the moment. It might be.
Is it Pedro Mendes?
I can't remember his name. Maybe he you could hear him saying to Mike Dean, "You can't say that. You shouldn't say that. You can't say that." And Mike Dean's going, "Go away, go away, go away." Mike Dean, being Mike Dean, I'm absolutely sure of it, said something a little bit naughty or a little bit cheeky, and they both exploded. Pochettino afterwards said, "I shouldn't have done it. It was my fault. It's an overreaction, etc."
And it was.
No, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, I would be fascinated to know what Mike Dean said, because if he said anything inflammatory at all, to me, that is a dereliction of duty from a referee.
Did you hear the rumour?
No, I haven't.
The rumour is that he said the Llorente substitution didn't work out before you did it. But I mean, that's like a Twitter rumour. So it could have been absolutely anything.
Say that again.
The rumour is that Mike Dean said, "Oh, that Llorente substitution didn't work out before you did it," and that's presumably in response to Pochettino making some angry comment.
I can't imagine.
No, but
I can't imagine
knows?
it. But if I could imagine any referee saying it, it would have.
Well,
been
indeed, because I mean, a good example would be the Jay Rodriguez thing. Oh, you weren't like this before you played for England.
That's Clattenburg.
Oh, right. Well, so yeah.
I was going to say Clattenburg and Deeney are different.
But they are similar in a sense.
But hang on, this is not about Dean. This is about Pochettino.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be doing that. And whatever Mike Dean said. Now, fair enough, Pochettino has apologised, but the reason why Pochettino reacted like that is, in his own words, Spurs have blown the title.
But I think that was a clever move from Pochettino to say that. I'll tell you why. I think that the pressure they've been under, the fact they've had their best striker out injured, they've had issues with personnel, they've been pulled into this title race. If he says that to his team, maybe he's just seeing them getting too hot up about it. Maybe he's just saying behind the scenes, we just need to relax a bit. Now he can say to them, say in public, so the players can see it, title's gone now.
Don't have a go at Deanie.
No, when you ever go at a man like Mike Dean, though, you've gone too far. He's lost the dressing room pot after that.
Yeah.
Because the only man they're there to see is Dino.
Yeah.
I think there is an argument, though, that perhaps in chasing the game and trying to win it, they've almost forgotten not to lose it.
Well,
because
they've got to go to win. They've got to go to win.
Do have to.
But
easier said than done when Tom Heaton's in goal.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to go to win, but within that attempt to win, you've also got to remember to keep it tight enough that you don't go and lose the game, which is exactly what they did. And obviously, Burnley got a little bit of fortune with the scuff in the build-up to Ashley Barnes' goal.
Well, they got fortunate with the corner as well, by the way.
Yeah, they did. But I mean, those decisions can happen.
No, absolutely. And I always say this.
It's not a big one.
In modern football, the way the scrutiny is these days and the way referees are demoted and taken out of rotation, to me, by the way, not enough, but it does happen. The amount of scrutiny, the amount of cameras, a referee can't really lose you the game. If the referee loses you the game, it's because you haven't done enough. I think it's a convenient excuse, and you're right what you say there with the corner. It was a poor decision. It looked to me. I don't know why people were saying it was a little bit difficult to work it out. To me, it definitely came off the player, and so. That's a fact, but of course they don't lose the game because of that.
Yeah,
they lost the game, so didn't take a.
It's frustrating for Spurs because they could have been what would they have been?
2 points off the top. They would have been.
3 points off.
3 points. Liverpool
2 points off Manchester City.
I mean, they're 6 points off now, which isn't unassailable.
I know.
I mean, it's
tough
unlikely.
It's very, very frustrating if you're a Spurs fan, and that is a chance gone. Really,
I still think though, Marcus, 6 points off the top with 11 games left. You're not out of it.
Still in there.
I don't think the reason I said what I said about Pochettino is because I don't think he thinks they're out of it either.
All right, a bit like Ashley Barnes and the Austria national team. There's still a chance.
Yes,
there's still.
I would love that.
A chance. We'd all love it.
I was surprised to hear that was even possible.
Yeah, he's played once for their under-20s. Which I think was a substitute.
I haven't spent enough time researching Ashley Barnes' career, even when he was linked with Chelsea that time. I like Barnes. I think he's a good.
So you don't research Ashley Barnes and you don't know anything about Mulder?
No.
What you've been doing on a football podcast?
I know.
Mulder is bad if it's in your house, but if it's in the Norwegian Football League,
you started that without thinking where you were going, and that's why I admire it.
A cheese route.
A lot of people would think about that in their mind and go, "No, I'm not going to go with that because I don't know where I'm going with it."
A lot of people think about it in their mind and go, "I think I'll listen to something else."